Polyglot Frank here, welcome back. Today we're gonna check the topic on building a strong foundation, which is very important when learning languages. The first thing that I want to talk about is focus on on perfect pronunciation early, meaning you have to focus on accurate sounds and intonation from the start. Okay. Some people, when they study, they tend to pronounce words the way they think it is pronounced, right? And this is a common mistake that I've seen. People trying to pronounce things the way they think, right? You have to check on the pronunciation, the intonation, the accurate sounds, because you're studying a language that other people speak. They have specific sounds for the words that they use. You have to learn those sounds. I'm not saying that you have to be perfect. I'm not saying that you have to, have a perfect pronunciation from the start, from zero, all right? What you have to do is trying to focus on the right sounds and intonation from the start, right? Because doing that, you're gonna not only get the right sounds, trying to get the right sounds when you speak, but also the people that are listening to you are gonna notice that you're trying to speak correctly. And sometimes, you know um, when you speak a language and you maybe don't pronounce something right, the other people around you tell you, hey, you have to adjust here and here. You have to pronounce this way. You see, this is what I'm talking about. You have the right sounds to communicate. A language is a tool for communication. If I start pronouncing my words right now in another way, with another accent, for example, or with another intonation, with another sound, for some people it might be difficult to understand. So this is why you have to focus on the right sounds from the start. Okay, you have to notice if there are any nasal sounds. You have to notice if you have to put the tongue in your teeth or something. These things you have to take into account. You have to, for example, if you're studying a language that is phonetic, you have to learn those sounds by memory, right? When you see one of those sounds, you know how to pronounce it, right? And when you see, for example, two words together and there is a consonant at the end, there is a vowel at the beginning of the other one, you have to, if there is a linking, there is another sound that you have to memorize. If there is a Z, for example, you have to know these details. Otherwise, when you speak, the other people who speak the language naturally, they expect you to make this sound. Otherwise, their brain is not gonna understand what you're saying, and then this person is gonna notice an accent, and then it could be a language barrier. This is very common. All right, so I'm not saying that you have to be perfect from zero, but focus on accurate sounds and intonation from the start. That's basically it. All right, so the second thing I want to talk about is you have to grasp core grammar concepts. You have to build a solid base with essential grammar rules. All right, I've listened to a lot of people that they promote that you have to learn languages naturally, without grammar, without any concepts. Of course you can do it. Like, the brain has the ability to do that. When we were kids, for example, we learned without having any grammar rules in our minds. We were just speaking. But now, when you're an adult, for example, you have to use the fact that you can think, the fact that you can actually um, use your brain to implement more things to reach your goal faster. So instead of, for example, letting your brain or yourself learn naturally by just listening to a language, I would integrate integrate some grammar concepts, here and there, some grammar rules, right? In order for me to learn faster. Because with grammar, the good thing about it is that you can actually know how everything is structured, how the words are put together, how what is the order of the sentences and everything. What things to take into account when using the words you learn about, articles, uh, pronouns, verbs, how to put them, what's the order that you have to use. So this is something that you can, of course, you can learn naturally, but it's a good thing if you are an adult to grasp those grammar core concepts from the start. All right. So it's a very good thing to learn naturally. If you can, it's fine. Um, when we were kids, we learned our native language just like that, naturally. And uh, and um, and yes, a lot of people learn, for example, when they are kids, up to the age of, let's say, 5 or 4, then they're speaking correctly everything, right? But are you gonna be waiting 4 years? You have to think the fact that kids are receiving a lot of information constantly, right? Kids are receiving a lot of words, tons of words every day, every single day for a lot of years. Of course, they're gonna speak perfectly in 3 4 years, right? But we as adults, maybe you want to speak in the next year. Maybe you have 7 months to travel. Maybe you have 9 months, so you can learn the basics, so you can speak a little bit. So you have to use grammar concepts, learn them to speed your learning process. So this is what I'm saying. I agree that you can learn naturally, but I also agree that if you are an adult and you want to speed up the process, you have to learn grammar concepts. The next thing that I want to talk about is you need to expand essential vocabulary and prioritize high frequency words, especially verbs. High frequency words and verbs. Why? Because I've seen a lot of people using verbs and words that, you know, in the daily basis, is rare to use them. Some people, for example, like some specific areas, uh, and then they're using verbs that don't apply to the present concepts that they're explaining, because this is used in another area. All right, so you have to use high frequency words and verbs. This is very important, because if the more you use these high frequency words, the more you will be able to communicate normally. These plus the grammar concepts are very good, because not only you know how to organize things, but you know the words are used commonly, right? Which is also very, very important. So this is something else that you have to take into account. Uh, you have to, I would use uh, resources to check on essential vocabulary. It's very good to do that. And I would not try to focus on other vocabularies, scientific vocabulary. I mean, not from the start, right? I would use, for example, greetings at the restaurant, at the hotel, at the park, at the church, at the, you know what I mean, at the mall, at the store, at the supermarket, things like that. Do not try to learn everything in one day or everything in 1 month. You know what I mean? Try to from the basics, basic readings, things like that. High frequency words are gonna help you um, focus on the right things that people use every day. All right. The next thing that I want to talk about is to apply spaced repetition techniques. Okay, spaced repetition is basically um, a repetition that you do on a with a time in between. For example, you study, for example, a vocabulary with high frequency words, let's say foods or fruits, right? And you study them right now. You have to study them tomorrow, for example, and or 2 days later, or on the same day with 5 hours in between. So spaced repetition is very good, especially when you have an essential vocabulary that you want to learn. Let's say you wanna travel, and you wanna, maybe you have a course that you want to do. Let's say, for example, and you're gonna be in a hotel, and you're gonna have a course in a country, right? And then come back. You're gonna spend 3 days over there. Well, you could have a list. You could make a list of the essential vocabulary, right? At the hotel, at the course, at the airport, right? And let's say you have 50 words or 100 words. Well, maybe you're not gonna learn those words in 1 day. So this is where you apply the spaced repetition. If you know that's gonna happen in 5 months, then you have the 100 words vocabulary, and you study them right now, for example, and then, or in the morning and at night, in the morning and at night, every day. So with these repetition techniques, that's a memory tool to reinforce learning and retention. So this is also very good. I've seen people that they study a vocabulary once, and they never see the vocabulary again. And of course, people tend to forget what they don't repeat. All right. So think about that, because this is very important. If you want to learn essential vocabulary, this is a very good tool to apply. And the last thing I want to talk about, you have to leverage beginner resources. Utilize apps, courses, and guides for rapid progress. And this is basically connected to what I was saying regarding, if you are an adult already, you can leverage resources at your level, right? Instead of waiting so you can naturally absorb the language, you could use a lot of resources on the internet. You could use app, courses, and any guides for rapid progress. I've seen a lot of people using apps to learn vocabulary. This is a very good thing, because the app by itself sometimes lets you know what words you had issues with that you're not remembering, or which vocabulary you have to study on a specific day, and it helps you stay like tuned with those vocabularies, and also it gives you a little bit of motivation, or the sense that something else is pushing you to learn. A lot of people don't have this desire of learning by themselves. They have to do a course. You have to get on a course, and basically, if you are going to be in a course for 3 months or 4 months or 5 months, or to finish the course, but you have to utilize resources to learn, right? Some people have books, for example, and they do their own vocabularies. I've seen people that they print a lot of pages with the words that they want to learn, they check the pronunciation, and then they learn by themselves. But do not let yourself do all the work. You can leverage, you know, yourself in the language learning with resources like apps, courses, and any guides for rapid progress. Right. So these was the topics that I wanted to talk about in this video. Like, share, subscribe, drop a comment, let me know which other courses you would like me to do in the future, and also comment below what concepts have you learned in this course. See you in the next chapter of the course.